It's my first time to this conference. So I was one of the guys who raised my hands when you asked who is coming to Extensia for the first time. And I'm really happy that you invited me, Majani Rao, and the Extensia management. Yeah, good morning, everybody. A little bit caught up in the moment, speaking to such a loud crowd, but I'm very happy to be here representing my company and also representing myself. So I'll not talk too much about my company, but I'll mention a bit about it. I'm the delivery head of Nokia in Ethiopia, at the forefront of telecommunications and enterprise solutions. So it's my honor today to address the esteemed gathering. I was here from the beginning when the minister was here. I don't see him yet right now, including as well the Tariq Malik, Extensia Limited boss. Thank you. Tariq Malik, thanks a lot for the warm welcome. And also I listened to Dr. Beleta Mola, the minister. What I picked up from their presentation, just keywords, especially from the minister, Dr. Beleta Mola. He is urging us today that we take decisive actions to make digital transformation that accelerates our continent. And I think that's the theme of the discussion here today. So I want to narrow down to an area as a delivery head that in my experience working in Kenya, South Africa, and managing teams also in West Africa, touches on the skills that are required to be able to meet this particular agenda that we are going to be discussing today. So as I said, today I'm not here to talk about Nokia, our products and our services. I think it's well known from a global point of view. But I want to chat to you about a topic that is a primary pillar in our delivery or operational setup. This is having skilled personnel. So before we get to that, let's first of all discuss about how the evolution of our ecosystem came about, especially the wireless mobile communications network. And that's what I've depicted there from the start. And you can see the evolution all the way from 1G, 2G, all the way to 6G. Everybody has seen this kind of model being shown in your studies and in various media. So in the early 2000s, actually prior to that, in the late 1990s, the first generation was it came about, okay, and quickly followed by the well-known GSM technology, which is 2G, and then moved briskly into the 2000s with 3G technology, and which allowed faster downloads, faster uplink, and the introduction of packet-switched technology. And packet-switched technology allowed that seamless management of data throughputs through the network. Now, the insatiable demand from the end customers, because the mobile devices were also advancing at that stage. I met somebody at the entrance, and when I told him I'm from Nokia, the first thing that hit him was, I used to have a phone, a Nokia phone. My first phone was a 3310. And I told him, yes, my first phone was a 6310i. I still have that phone. It's a brick. The beauty about that phone when it came about is the battery life was really amazing. That's the first thing. I still own one. And then I advanced myself and got myself a Nokia Communicator, which is a flip phone, and now it has a nice keyboard. The screen was a little bit smarter. And now you are able to do, and that was during the 3G days. So you're able to do more data throughputs. You are able to be a bit more sophisticated and fanciful in front of people. But I told him, we don't do that anymore. Of course, in the market, we do have Nokia branded phones, but we don't do that anymore. We are more into the infrastructure side of the business, of the telecommunications environment, or the ICT environment. Then 4G came about in 2010. And 4G came in various variants, and it allowed faster throughputs, up to between 100 megabits per second to 1 gig. 1 gig is where you have got LTE advanced technology. Then it has evolved further to 5G. I went through Madmahon, some of the videos from last year of this same workshop, and literally every speaker was saying 5G is coming to Ethiopia. I can tell you from that first table seated in there, they will tell you 5G is already in the country. Ethiotel already has 5G. So you can imagine how quickly technology is advancing. Last week, I joined a panel in my company to discuss 6G, which is only earmarked for 2030. So the growth of the telecommunications sector is so fast, and the problem that we have in the African continent in our market is that we are always laggards. 4G is still a technology that is catching up right now. We are deploying 4G in networks here, and when you go to the mature markets in Europe, in Asia, they have already dispelled of it, and they're talking about new technologies right now and moving on. Now, what has driven this growth? We are sitting in, and I've got a depiction of this particular view. We are sitting in the telecommunication infrastructure space as Nokia, as Ericsson, as the main vendor companies. We create this technology that enables other consumers to connect and to use the services. And the end user drives that growth through adoption of services that I've captured there at the bottom there. Audio and video streaming. So many platforms now exist for audio and data streaming. Social networking. So many applications. Gaming systems. I think there was a time Microsoft also bought a gaming company called, launched a gaming company called Stadia, which has now fallen through. But the market is massive. And this requires high latencies. Anybody who does gaming will tell you that. High latencies so that you can have a high frame rate, and bigger bandwidth so that you can download big throughput video streams. Standard web browsing, e-commerce have come into play. Big companies in e-commerce. I was surprised in South Africa, the biggest competitor for Takealot. Takealot is one of the biggest, is South Africa's biggest e-commerce company. And their main competitor right now is Amazon. And Amazon is not even headquartered in South Africa. And it's through such platforms which is connecting the world that is bringing this competition to the table. So an executive in Takealot needs to pay cognizant of the fact that his competition is not even sitting in the same country, following the same regulatory framework that exists in that country. Cloud data backup and mobile AR and VR streaming applications, they have come into play right now. Apple launched their Visio application recently on a beta phase, but I'm very sure it will go into a commercial stage, which will be adopted by many other players in the market. But what I also wanted just to highlight here is the blue section there. These are over-the-top players. OTT players have come into play, and they have actually forced the adoption of technologies, but they do not play at the same level as the traditional enterprise customers, the traditional communication service providers. They don't follow the same rules. They don't participate in 3GPP specification setups. They just come on the table, launch their applications, and they ride on top of their existing infrastructure. A few years ago, WhatsApp was bought by Facebook, now Meta. Anybody know how much they paid for that? Big sum, $16 billion. And it was started, WhatsApp was started by a bunch of guys in a garage somewhere, and they launched an application. Actually, prior to that, there was a company in South Africa called Mixit, MXIT, who everybody thought they would be the company that would blow over and become this big messaging app ecosystem. They didn't take that chance. WhatsApp came after that and gained that momentum. Now, anybody in the communication service provider business will tell you how much it has eroded their messaging services, which, of course, they're hoping to sell through SMS, which is an underlying technology in the model that the 3GPP had specified. But they're riding on top of it, and they're adding more value in there. Now, if you look at the current WhatsApp platform, if you open it, the kind of services that are offered in it, it's amazing, it's mind-blowing. Recently, I was driving back home, and I had my Android, what's it called, car Android device activated there, so that at least you can be able to stream, listen to podcasts, and also you have got the mapping system in there for the navigation. And I just imagine if my great-grandfather appeared from nowhere and sat in the car there and looked at the setup in there, and there's a lady giving me directions to go somewhere, what would be going through the mind of my great-grandmother if she were to appear in there? It would be amazing, right? But we take these things for granted. I listened to a joke on a popular show that I like watching, Jimmy Kimmel was interviewing somebody. And this guy was traveling, and he was seated in the plane with a very angry passenger who was complaining about the streaming throughputs in the plane. He was trying to join a Teams or a Zoom session, and it was buffering too long, and he was interrupted, and he called the air hostess and was complaining so bitterly. Now, the joke behind this was the response back to this guy. He told him, first of all, please appreciate that you're sitting on a chair in the sky. That is already so amazing. Forget about streaming while you're seated up there. But we take all these things for granted. And yet, right now, as we speak, the technology is advancing in leaps and bounds that we cannot even imagine. And that is why an ecosystem such as this allows us to talk about these topics and how they impact all of us. Now, as a result of the players at the top there, the big companies, the popular FAANG, who operate, currently their market cap is about $7 trillion, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, if you combine all of them, that's just their market cap. And they're still expanding further if you listen to the latest announcements. And new companies are coming on board in there now. NVIDIA now is one of the big companies that is playing in this field with augmented reality solutions and also with their chipsets for AI technology and machine learning. So we have to pay attention to this area insofar as the growth of the industry is concerned. Now, why this is important is this, and I'll go to the next slide. The way the setup was before, we had three broad categories of areas that we would play in, depending on your business model as you defined it. You are either an equipment manufacturer, so a vendor in the vendor ecosystem, or you're a service provider, or you're an end user. And all of them now are relevant in the market. Now, if you're in the equipment market, like we are, what are the important areas or factors that we consider in terms of making sure that we can coexist? We look at the portfolio. And for our case, in Nokia, we have an end-to-end portfolio, which touches all the way from the radio layer through the core and to the end consumer. And that's what, once we define that, we sell that to our service providers, who are various. And before, it used to be the communication service provider. In the country here, we have got a few of them, Ethiotel, Safaricom. But also we have got enterprise players who have come into play, who are offering services that the traditional CSP providers choose not to, or these services have been created through this ecosystem evolution. Okay? And the key factors that we also look at is our technological prowess through participation in standardization programs like 3GPP specifications. Right now we're on the sixth generation of the evolution. Geographical expansion. Speaking for my company, we operate 150 countries. And that is important because we have to make solutions that are tailored for the market that we work for. Deploying a site solution here in Africa is different from deploying one in Europe or in the Americas. Strategic partnerships and acquisitions, critical as well for us. And this forum here allows us to break into that strategic partnership ecosystem as well. And then what is also critical to make sure that the whole chain works is a cost optimized solution, which is efficient as well. Now, once the solutions and products and services are formulated, they're passed on to the service providers who pass them, and they solution themselves as well what they want. And they look at their own market segments. And their market segments are various. There could be fintech end users. Here in Ethiopia, I think we have seen the margins in the last maybe 2 years or so of e-commerce facilities on the mobile side or that allows you to do money transfers, Telebir, M-Pesa. Cost-efficient deployment of these solutions, okay? And then these solutions also should be scalable and differentiated as well. And then lastly, it is passed on to the end consumer. Now before, and Matt Mahon is just warning me, I'll just take an additional 3 if you don't mind. Before we used to have our skilled resources who would play in all these fields here. So if I would go to the market to ask for resources, I'm looking for a Cisco, an expert in IP routing and networking. He would only be operating in this particular space where I operate. But what is happening right now is the market has become so ubiquitous that an expert who would be operating 10 years ago in the telecom equipment market now has value proposition in the end consumer market. You'll be surprised. Has a value proposition with service providers. We have engineers who are being poached by Ethio Telecom. We have coders who are being poached by, not really poached, but they are being sourced by big operators in the country and even enterprise customers. So that I won't go too much to the details around this. The data growth has been explosive, and it's still going to be explosive. What I wanted to touch on here is by 2030, the expectation is that we'll be having about 5.6 billion 5G subscriptions globally. And then also, if you look at also that growth trend, 4G and 5G will be contributing at least 92% of the total mobile subscriptions globally. That is massive. So we cannot stop this. What needs? Let me just move to the ICT skill topic now and narrow down. So I did some research, and this is actually a research done in South Africa. And you can see the key comments and the key concerns that the leadership in South Africa are concerned with. And if you compare Ethiopia and South Africa, no disrespect to Ethiopia, ICT is really advanced in Ethiopia. But the biggest issue when a study was conducted that is facing an executive in that country is skills shortage. The comments from Ursula, more attention should be paid to building a fit-for-purpose skills. Nombulelo from Dimension Data, who is a big cloud company in the country there. Acquiring skills can't keep up with the shifting demands of the industry. The industry is shifting a lot, as I talked about it. From the telecom equipment manufacturer all the way to the service providers to the end users. There's no loyalty to any one of those industries. And then last, you can see Martin Dipina from Global Kinetic. His biggest qualm is that they have to compete now with big banks. Big banks are hiring coders because they are developing their own fintech products. Okay? The biggest critical skill gaps that have been identified in this study in the ICT sector in South Africa, and this is just a snippet of the situation, is information security, cybersecurity, data design, that is big data, and challenges as well around AI, ML. And that's a big talk in the market right now. So we also need to adopt to this at a local level. Okay? I did also a further check of the cybersecurity skill gap in Ethiopia. What stood out as well, as I've captured it, there's a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. The minister talked about regulations of policies, change of the regulatory space so that we can allow cybersecurity industry to flourish. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we still have a very big gap in terms of the skills in the market. On our side, sorry, can I just move on? Okay. On our part, in Nokia, when we are coming to deploy a network like this, it's important we deploy it quick, fast, and efficiently. So we will use experts from outside the country to deploy that. But we also need to be sustainable. Normally, when we come to a market like this, we want to stay. And to stay means that we need to skill the local resources, the local skilled personnel in here. I was happy when I looked at Addis Ababa degree in ICT, and what was standing out was the fact that they have got the right curriculum. The 246 credits in there, they have got enterprise training, they have got cybersecurity and everything. But we as industry leaders, what I can ask is that we put measures in place to actually allow for vocational training, practical attachment into our workspaces so that they can actually gain that experience. Because somebody coming raw from a university, the value proposition is not really there from the start, and they have to sit for a period so that before they can start, they can add value to your to the business. Okay, and then lastly, which would have just been a message also to and I'm happy the innovation minister talked about it as well, where the government also has initiatives to set up ICT hubs. Like he mentioned, in May there's going to be one, and we will participate in that so that we can also pass on the skills that we have and showcase some of the products and services that we have in there from a global space that can also be adapted into this country. So with that, I just want to pause, and thanks a lot for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to further engagement in this workshop. Thanks a lot.